Good afternoon. My name is Mark, and I want to welcome you here to Gov Directions and Gov School. Today, what we're going to be doing is talking about the RFP. This is a session I enjoy doing where we take a real live RFP and we are able to discuss it and answer questions that you might have. If you're currently in our Zoom call, feel free to chat questions live, and otherwise we will just pose some of those questions for those on YouTube live. This is a series of Gov School, and I always encourage everyone to link through in their member home account, and you can go in and actually see those. Sorry about that. You can see those classes that we have under your own personal member account. Go under Gov School, YouTube Live. See the ones that we recorded, and then current schedule, see the ones that are coming up. We have our Gov School Focus, which is every the first and third Tuesday of the month, and then we'll have a series that's coming up. We'll be announcing on the actual pieces of the RFP and individual parts of it, and we'll call this March Madness, RFP Madness, and we'll be announcing that here soon. So look for that to come soon. Today, what we're going to do is talk about specifically the request for proposal. Our purpose on hand here is we want to actually take a live RFP, one that I've been watching, in fact, and I want to use it to walk through each section with you and explain the individual importance and give you the ability to ask us questions as we go through that. One of our favorite quotes at Gov Directions, I think we've got this posted on our Instagram account today too, but it's supposed to be hard. If we're easy, everyone would do it. So don't let the difficulty scare you away. Once you start practicing, you'll find that it comes a little easier to you. In fact, this quote here, I think, was from Tom Hanks whenever he was in a league of their own. It's about softball. Everybody can get out there and play softball, but professionally, we've got to have a lot of practice in order to make that work for us, for you as a business owner to get out there and do that. Contracting instruments are basically set up to allow us to engage with between parties from the private side to the public side, and it helps shape the how we're going to work together. And as you know, as we all know, we actively engage the private sector and companies to provide services to governments. It's a longstanding tradition, specifically in the United States, but they like to actively involve private companies in this process. And so in order to do that, they want to make sure they're treating everybody fairly, and they're also evaluating everyone fairly. And so they'll use these types, the contract instruments that I've shown here, as a way to engage you. The more basic one is the request for information. There, governments go out and ask for companies to respond that may be looking for a specific product, or maybe just learning more about who's source of salt, who's able to meet a service or provide some supplies or a commodity, and just getting a list put together. And so they'll go out and hopefully you'll have your capability statement ready to go, and they're able to quickly respond to them, but somewhat informal. These are oftentimes used whenever there's a disaster, and make sure they can get a quick response. So that you do need to go there. They generally have be able to ready to go in order to respond. To have a limited time frame in how you're able to get information back to them. A request for qualifications. There, government's going to go ahead and maybe pre-qualify a group. Or give you this is sometimes used in industries that are professional in nature, and they're driven by those industries. For example, engineers or attorneys. Maybe there's a particular type of law that's necessary for a project, and they're asking for qualifications in the community from a particular type of law firm, or maybe an engineer, maybe a civil engineer, or even where they're trying to get maybe a certified electrician. And so on. Sometimes these are actually even put in place whenever they're authorizing purchases throughout the year. Maybe the very beginning, they'll go of the year or the fiscal year, the calendar budget year, and they'll go in and ask for qualifications or pricing for a number of different commodities, and then they'll just give individual department heads the ability to go in and buy off that list throughout the year. So the general requests for qualifications for pre-qualifying. So you look for those at the beginning of calendar years. The source of SALT is some more formal federal government requests for information. They're notifying the marketplace that they're interested in acquiring the service or supply, and they want to know who's interested. Oftentimes, when you respond, these agencies, if there's not a great deal amount of competition, they actually will go straight to contract. So you don't want to ignore those just because it's not a formal request for a proposal or an invitation to bid. You want to make sure you do respond to them, because they could eventually just go straight to business for your company. And I should point out that I just counted up the number of RFPs and invitations to bid and invitations to quote that have been pulled together this year so far, and we just passed 146,000 total listings since January 1st. So it's an active year. We're seeing a great deal, a great number of new calls for bids and proposals. So there's plenty of business opportunities for you out there. Invitation to quote, oftentimes just very simple, informal process to get your interest. They may even just pick up the phone and call you, get 3 or 4 companies to respond. But you should be ready to go and ready to respond and ready to give a price to a government. So somewhat straightforward. And of course, the invitation to bid, same process where the government knows exactly what they want, and they're asking for you to come in and give them a price point, oftentimes a per unit or per hour, but spelled out in detailed specifications. And so everyone is treated the same, and everyone's provided who responds will meet the exact same specs. And so you watch for those. And I would say invitation to bid are probably the most common that's available whenever a government is, specifically when maybe hiring something per hour or commodity. And then we have the one I traditionally respond to, and most companies do. These are the requests for proposal. And I'm going to focus on that today, the RFP, because these are the ones where a government, they know what they're hoping to accomplish, but they really are leaning on you as the subject matter expert to tell them how to go about achieving their goals. And you have to be prepared to respond back to them, showing your methodology and giving them some ideas. And so it's important that you practice with your company and making sure you understand how to read those and how to respond to them. And this could be from anything from clothing to a service or a supply, unusual supply. So just know that it's in every industry. So it's not just in consulting. But the RFP is by far the one that's the most complex in order to respond to. What is it exactly? It is a solicitation. They're wanting to hire you. So when you see an RFP on the street, know that they're looking for competitive responses. Okay, so you have a good shot at winning them. If you see that they are in the marketplace, governments have a great deal of flexibility, great amount of flexibility. They're able to go in and hire somebody with sole source or just a general negotiation. It's specifically local government, state government level. They can do that. It's not so difficult. And so when you do see them, it is because they're seeking a competitive response. And it's generally done by an agency or a company who's interested in procuring either a commodity, a service, something of value, a valuable asset. And they were looking for business proposals to accomplish that goal or whatever that purchase is seeking to accomplish. Typical parts. When you pick up an RFP, you're going to see at least these individual items, these parts that are commonplace in almost all RFP, and you can see some more, but these are the fundamentals there. First, you're going to be looking for the statement of work. The statement of work should be a clear purpose, generally a paragraph or maybe 2. And whenever you read that, it should speak to you. You should say, yes, I can provide this. I can help them achieve that goal. And if you're reading it and you're not sure, that's a pretty strong sign that it's not really for your company. So you probably should move along. But the statement of work, that should be the the quickest way to make sure you're a good match for that RFP. The technical specifications here, the government will actually list out what they're hoping to accomplish in that statement of work and how they anticipate going about that, technically speaking. And so you should be able to read, when you read through those, you should say, yes, I can do most everything on the list. Sometimes you are not able to do everything. And just because you can't provide every single technical spec, it doesn't mean you should bypass. Now, the statement of work, I think it's clear if you're not seeing a match there, you should. But on the technical specs, if there's one or two items, and you can speak back to that and say, well, this is something that I'm not able to do, or we might need to use a third party, another organization, or maybe a subcontractor to do that. And here's how we're going to go about accomplishing that together. A schedule, almost always a method to start and finish a project, and making sure that you can also deliver the list of deliverables, the next items, according to that schedule. But it's generally a start and finish point. These are not open-ended contracts. And you may, at the federal government level, you might see some indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity type proposals. Even those will have a time frame or schedule that's necessary. The list of deliverables here are the individual items. Most likely, the method for which you actually would determine your pricing and providing that back. And it could be also a method for you to lay out your compensation plan for the work that you're providing. But those individual deliverables will be the action items for that government. Contract terms and conditions, also almost always there. If it's not there, I sometimes will drop in my own contract terms just to get the conversation started. But know that whenever you see the contract's terms and conditions, they've been through a pretty elaborate process to develop them, and you're not likely to change anything. So you need to be able to live with those contract terms. And so read through those and make sure that you're aware of those. Most of those are pro forma in the sense that, if you see one in one state, every other contract in that state's going to be about the same thing. So they're trying to make sure they're in compliance with rules and regs and that are out there. It also helps define maybe compliance, and making sure that, while you're providing those deliverables, that the compliance of how that's going to be done they'll speak to that in the contract terms. Format of proposal. This is the attempt to make sure that when you respond back and others respond back, that you're doing so in the closest apple to apple comparative way as possible. So they're going to tell you how to reply to them. And they'll give you that breakdowns. Oftentimes they'll say 10 sheets of information, no more than 10 pages. Or, they may say, we want this section first, another section second. We might want other items like the cost separated or in another sealed format. So make sure you pay attention to that. Now, you should, as you're growing in government contracting, come to have sort of a sample response back. I would put a lot of effort into that and making sure I've got all the details that I would normally place in an RFP when I'm giving it back to them. And so you're going to keep maybe in a Google folder of some sort, and then you can pull that out when necessary to actually complete the RFP response. But whenever you do that, the format that you're using normally is fine for your use, but it's not for the government itself. So you need to revamp it so it's in the individual government's format that they're actually looking for in the for the individual response. Hold on a second here. And then so format of proposal is very important. A qualification and experience. This is going to be a section where they're going to outline the decision-making process, how they're going to go about who are they looking for, and what are the qualifications that you need to have. Do you need to have 3 years of recent experience, for example? And they'll lay those out. Now, these are, just kind of like when you're applying for a job, maybe in the past, and you saw the general qualifications and experience. Sometimes we have exact matches. Sometimes we don't. It doesn't mean we don't want to respond, though. So we just have to sell ourselves better a little sometimes. So, generally, if you can achieve some of the qualifications and you can achieve some of the experience, then you want to sell yourself to convince them that just because you don't have all the qualification experience doesn't mean they shouldn't hire you, okay, or hire a contract with your company. So that's a sort of give and take there, but they're going to tell you the idea. Cost breakdown, they're going to try to make sure that they can get once again, the apple comparison. They're going to tell you how to break down that cost. They're going to tell you if it's maybe per hour or how you're going to, sometimes they want you to do it in separate response format, but they'll lay that out for you. And then finally, the evaluation criteria. The most important part there, they want to make sure that they're able to evaluate everybody in a comparative way. And they're going to tell you maybe percentage breakdown and how they're going to do that. And so it's important that you read through that, you understand. You may even want to go back and evaluate yourself using that criteria. I have maybe a small group in the office do that for you. There's no school of evaluation. Everybody's trained. So, you get 5 or 6 people to evaluate your response. You should get about the same level of evaluation that you might find from the government itself. And so those are your typical parts. And, I think one of the most important parts of most important aspects of working with government is when you're looking at an RFP, is that it really is the one that you want to define. Okay. It should speak to you when you look at it. You start reading through those typical parts there. You look at that statement of work and those technical specs that, it's the one that you wanted to work on, and you can respond to them. And so you find yourself sort of in a mutual setting right away when you pick it up. And it should always be the case. And also remember that, work expands always so as to fill the time available for its completion. So you see one that may be required to have 3 or 4 days to get back to it. You generally could put it together if you got all your stuff in all your information in your Google Drive, the same types of items that you might have responded to from other RFPs. So you should be able to get to that in 3 or 4 days. Same way if you got 30 or 45 days, you don't want to get to it early, okay? Because there are going to be some addendums and some amendments potentially that you want to make sure you pay attention to. And so what I want to do now is really take us live to the web, pull out 1 or 2 RFPs that I have found, and some that are potentially of interest. And you might want to do the same sort of exercise when you're through Gov Directions, because what we're trying to do here is to help you pinpoint and really make sure it really is the one that you want to define. We do that a couple of different ways. One of which is your account settings, making sure you have those set correctly. It's just point and click, or maybe even also searching by keyword, or maybe going in and searching by NAICS code if you're really focused in on the federal government level. But let's just go in. I'll do some compensation studies. And so I'm going to look and see what I can find with just a general keyword compensation. Now, this is Boolean search technique. So you can go in and you can use 2 words together, just put a big quotes, but come in and see it. This is actually narrowed down some 45,000 listings that are active right now to 785. Still a big group. So maybe I want to go in and then go back through and maybe sort by industry. It'll look a little bit different. So compensation could be in the keyword in a lot of different ways. One reason why we don't deliver the daily alert by keyword, you just can sometimes be overwhelmed. But here we have more industry aspects for those words as well. So if I step through and I look in, these are typically human resource consulting contracts. And so I just go ahead and step through until I get to consulting human resources. And they start with pay equity evaluation criteria. Okay, so as I'm pulling through there, so here are my primarily classification compensation studies. And just remember, your daily alerts only going to show you those bids from the previous 24 hours. Now online, you're going to see everything that's active. You need to go online every so often just to and play around with it because you may miss something in your daily alert. You want to make sure that you're learning about all the opportunities, and so they'll capture your attention. So here's one in Georgia that I've been watching due March 10th. Another one due March 15th. And let's just see which one of these. So I might want to just go in and then check it out and see which RFP. So it sort of caught my attention. There's some indicator of success that I'm watching for. One of which is that it's within the state that I'm working. It's got a good title. It fits exactly what I'm doing. And then when I open that up, it's going to be, I'm going to have the ability to capture it. I want to make sure I do that, because then I don't have to go back and try to find it for the future, because it is something I'm particularly interested in. And I see this is for a city of Sylvester, Georgia. And I kind of know where it's at, but maybe I want to refresh my memory. This is in Southwest Georgia. It should come up, and lo and behold, there's Sylvester. And this is helpful with some of the typical Google mapping techniques, because I'll probably going to have to go on location. I might want to look and see how far it is. It might be a part of my pricing structure in terms of mileage and so forth. But here it is in Southwest Georgia, just south of Albany. It's a good location for me, not too far from our Atlanta offices. I've got my reference number that I keep on. I got the contact details right here at my fingertips. And so therefore it is something I'm interested in. I'm going to step on through and then look at the actual RFP. And so here we have an RFP. We have that RFP number, remembering that as we go in, and we have the town, this typical cover sheet. And then right away, they will give you an introduction, a background, and a scope. So this is the statement of work. So in this case here, they want to go ahead and tell you, why are they doing this? In the general introduction, sometimes you'll find the introduction details on the cover sheet itself, and they'll give you the dates and times that you have to respond to. I'm going to mark those. Okay. And so here they had some questions and answer, a question period. They want a particular way to ask questions. I'm not going to just call it the mayor. I might know the mayor, Sylvester, and pose questions to him. That's not a good idea. I want to do exactly what they tell me. So here they want me to reach out to Markeisha Bivens, and she's the city clerk if I have a question. And those will go to them by February 25th. I don't need to be sending questions today. It's too late. Okay. And then I'm gonna maybe look back online to see if there were any questions at the individual agency's website. I'll show you how to do that in just a second. As I go on through here, I'm gonna have to get the response back to them on March 10th at noon. And I want to get it there at 1 o'clock. Okay. It's going to be too late, or 12:05. Okay. Probably going to get there. Not going to get it there tomorrow either. I'm going to maybe make sure it gets there by the 9th or 8th if I decide to respond to this. Okay. So I'm learning that. To give me that introduction, to give me some background so I know where Sylvester's at. And this is always helpful. But then right away, that scope of work is listed out. Okay. Focusing in on that, I'm going to start looking for indicators. Like this is a number of employees that they have, or maybe potentially the size of the organization, or the number of widgets that they're seeking. Okay. Start pulling out items that when you bid on them. So on average, when I bid on contracts, when there's 50 to 150 employees, I will win that, 60% of the time. So start learning which projects really meet what your organization is seeking to pursue and win. And here are the general requirements. It's basically, here are the technical or deliverables and technical specs sort of mixed together, and what they were looking for in the project itself. So there's 20 items. Okay. In this case here, I probably would, right away start me a little spreadsheet, drop in those 20 items, make sure I can do every item. Nothing here really has caught my attention that I can't do. Maybe this particular part with the FLSA, I'm not really an expert. I might want to bring in my third-party contractor or subcontractor to help me out. I'm going to have to know who that is, be ready to go and understand that. Or I might say, yeah, I can do, items 1 through 18, but I'm not really willing to do item number 5. Okay. Just go ahead and lay it out. Don't ever leave that open for question. Okay. Make sure when you respond back, you're able to fulfill all the individual pieces of all the individual requests. Okay. And this is also, I'm going to go through as I'm pulling this in my spreadsheet. Most likely this is going to, it's going to require maybe 10 hours. It's going to require maybe 30 hours. And then I'm going to have my hourly rate, or it could be built on my number of employees. And that's going to help me and start developing my pricing mechanism. Okay. And how I'm going to price the contract. Okay. So that's another good reason to drop it into maybe on a Google sheet, and your business, you would know how the best to do that. Okay. You're also going to see, how this is the schedule. They wanted all the work done May 13th. Okay. That's a quick turnaround. So they want to start this on March 21st, and they want the work completed by May 13th. That might scare me away. I might want to just walk away at this point in time. Okay. It just doesn't, it's probably, it's not feasible for them to request it that quickly. Okay. Or, then maybe it is, but a 2 month, or I might say, yeah, I can do that, but I'm gonna have to shift my business from elsewhere, in order to meet that deadline. And this is going to be maybe a 30% premium in order to do that. Okay. This is helping you in your pricing structure as well. So just know that they're giving you that schedule there. And whenever I respond back, I've got to be able to do this. Okay. And I'm not going to go back to them and say, give me the contract. And then when I win the contract, say, yeah, I can't do this until May 13th of 2023. Okay. They're driving the project, and they will tell us that. Okay. Proposal contents. It's the format of proposal. They want an introductory letter. They want company background. These details here. Okay. And I would lay them out, A, B, C, D, E, whenever I'm responding back to them. I'll make sure I'm going to answer every single question that they have. Okay. In that document. So this is one page. This is the front page. This is the company listing. This is not going to be my capability statement at this point. Okay. I don't need to be sending my capability statement. What I need to do is have a page that says company background. In section A, it's going to give me it's going to give them the local name, address, and phone number. And I'm not going to make them search for all this information. Okay. It's going to be laid out just like they have requested. In fact, I'm going to probably go back and do a check mark and say I've done every step, and have my little page number here. That this is going to be page 2, paragraph A, paragraph B, paragraph C, paragraph D, and so forth. Okay. Be straight back the way. It's just not the time to be creative. And then when you're working with government, your creativity is when you get your foot in the door and they actually call you for an interview. Okay. Relevant experience. So I need to lay them out, laid out section A and section B. They want 3 public sector references in the last 5 years. Okay. I'm going to try to drive some common organizations, somebody in Georgia potentially, or maybe a city the same size. And I need to make sure that there's 3 at least in the past 5. Okay. And I'm going to make sure I have a name, their location, contact, phone number, and the email address. And it's going to be current. And not only that, I'm going to let them know before I send it. Okay. So they don't want to be caught off by surprise. Whenever they're reviewing my proposal, the methodology and approach, I'm going to lay that out. This is where I'm going to spend most of my time. Okay. And I'm going to explain to them how I'm going to accomplish their objectives, all 20 of them. And here's how I'm going to go. And so I'm going to do that. And I'll lay that out, probably even to the point where I'll take each item, and that's a paragraph itself. Okay. Or if I pull them together, it's in the same order. Okay. Potentially even using their language. So if requested by the city manager, then I will present the findings in a written report. Okay. On this date, no later than May 13th. Pull that details, that language back into it. Clarity of purpose is important. Clarity of language. Okay. When you're writing a response back, the technical writing, focus on ABCs. Okay. Accuracy, brevity, and clarity. So be straight to the point, be accurate, speak to the items they're looking for, and then be clear in it so it's not muddled at all. Okay. In the details. In the area of total cost here, they want a lump sum cost. Okay. I don't need to go back and say, here it is per hour. I need to say my cost is going to be $20,300. Okay. And it includes all related costs, including travel and expenses. And not only that, I'm going to make sure it's in a separate sealed envelope. Okay. And sometimes even say, but it's sealed, and these particular words have to be on the outside. Okay. And I would probably even have it taped so it stays sealed. Okay. And that they would have to break that seal. My evaluation and award criteria is here first. They're looking at the methodology. That's the part I will put most of this emphasis in. They're going to look at my relevant experience, look at total cost, the company background, and then reference responses. Okay. Now see here, they have 5 items. Most of this though is going to be in this, in somewhat subjective, here, your knowledge, your relevant experience, your background and cost. Sometimes I actually go in and say, this is 40%. This is 30%, this is 10%, and so on. Okay. And know that going in, that way you can evaluate yourself a little bit better. They give me a price form. It makes it a little easier. I'm not going to create my own at this point. I'm just going to put $20,300. If that's what I'm doing, 45,000. So with the signature, don't let small things like I forgot to put the proposer names. Is this going to be my company name here? And most likely, because this is a little unclear, I might put my name as well. Okay, just to be certain. Okay, so Mark Knowles, Gov Directions. Okay, and I pull back. I'm going to use this form, and remember, I'm going to put this in a sealed envelope like they requested. They're going to throw in any special documents that might be needed. Affidavits and agreements, save affidavits that are required in Georgia. And so you want to make sure you have those ready to go. And not only that, but in this particular case, they probably are going to require a notary. I'm gonna have to give myself enough time to go get that notary to sign it. This one is for subcontracts. Okay. And the other one was for, let's see here, what they're looking for, federal work authorization. Okay. That you're there for that purpose. And that's it. So that's 9 pages. That's not anything complicated. Maybe it can look hard, but when you really get in there, I can actually pull this one together in an afternoon beforehand if I need to. I haven't decided if I'm going to pursue it or not, and so I'm sort of waiting. I might want to go back and check out those that organization's details. Go in, and look under their bids. Typically under bids and contracting. There we go. Right straight away. So they've got the request salary studies, and it looks like nobody's sent in any questions. There's no amendment at all, which is probably surprising, but it's not there. So that's all that's available. So that is a sign that not many people are probably bidding on this. So maybe it would be worthwhile pursuing it, and you can kind of pick up on some of those processes, some of those hints to let you know when there's going to be more competitive and not. Sometimes I'll go in, I might want to look around at the organization and look as well under their maybe their agenda items, their meetings. Here's your city officials. There's the agendas and minutes. Everything that a government does is in open. So they probably have talked about this this project in the past, in late to 2021, maybe. There's some minutes there. And so I can even go in and maybe do search keywords in the minutes. Because oftentimes they'll their listings may not be updated, but then when you go in, you actually do the search, you could find a bid. Not in this case here, but sometimes. So there we are today. And as I promised, we walked through this document for the RFP. And I've given you maybe some tips here. First, read the entire proposal always. Pay attention to those areas that we discussed. Set it aside, talk to colleagues, and make sure you're a good fit, and then complete the proposal usually at one setting. And remember, as you go along, the only source of knowledge is experience. Okay, you got to get in there and make sure that you are in practice, and you'll get better at it. Pay attention to those indicators of success items that if this is one that you bid on, you're going to have a great chance of winning. In fact, this one here, if I bid on it, I would have a pretty strong chance of winning it. So I have to be prepared for it. But that 2-month deadline actually scares me away a little bit. So I probably will bypass on it. But I kind of know that going into it. And you learn that over time, because that knowledge is gained as you respond to individual bids over time. And so thank you for joining us today. I see we just actually had someone come online. This is one of our quick sessions. It is stored, and it was live on YouTube. So it's going to be available almost immediately just by going to our YouTube channel. And the way to do that, of course, is to go to Gov Directions in your member home account, and then pop down to Gov School here. And then you can see the live recordings. And whenever I click there, I'm actually going to see us talking. It's going to be live right here, and it'll be available to you right after I sign off. So everybody have a great afternoon. And let's see if there's any questions. And since this is a live performance. Thank you, Beth, for saying. Anybody have any questions? If not, always give us a call at 800-492-8523. And I'll be glad to answer any questions directly, or you can schedule a personal demonstration there. and I'll be glad to spend some personal time with you. Just choose Mark on the option, and I will reserve some time with you for that. Okay. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.